We're so excited to be going inside of the C-suite to speak to Zandile Nzalo. She's a darling of entrepreneurship. You'll see why just now. We're going in.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for allowing us to kick down your doors and come inside of your C-suite.
You're most welcome.
What a journey it's been, man. You have, it's really interesting. What I love about what I think I know about your journey is that you're like the darling of entrepreneurship.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting for me, but particularly because, having a media background, but also being taken serious, you've been able to keep your femininity. You've been able to keep the fact that you're sweet, but people take you serious. That's a difficult balance. How have you been able to do that?
I don't even know if I do it consciously. What I do know for sure is that it's important to bring out the best of everyone that you interact with, and you can only do that if you're genuine with yourself. So you start off by just being authentic and understanding what it is that you need out of a situation, what you want out of life. And it's so important as well to realize that in the business world, we don't have to wear grey suits and look all manly and behave manly to get the best results. I think if you understand a little bit about human nature, you realize that you can still get the best out of people by enabling them and allowing them the chance to be who they are and deliver the best to the best of their ability. And often what I think we get confused with in the corporate world is, well, unless you're all hard and fast on people, then they're not going to deliver. So there are just different ways and means of doing it.
Your own signature, you have your own way of getting stuff out of people. We'll talk about that in a minute, but take us way back. What was your first entrepreneurial project? The first thing that you sort of like wrapped your head around and said, I'm going to grow this baby?
I can answer that question in two ways. The first is when I started a jumble sale when I was 7 years old, and I said to my mom, give me all clothes, give me all the stuff. You would call it a garage sale, I would imagine, but a jumble sale, I just took all the old stuff and I sat there with a friend, put up a sign outside our gate when I was still living in Swaziland, and sold little items like a t-shirt for 10 rands and a little plate for this. I mean, that was the first time I ever thought, actually, I could make some money. This is how money is made. And obviously then growing up and getting into this environment, getting out of media, studying Zanenza communications back in Randburg in a cottage, that would have been the real absolute first official project. Would have been a project for Amanitare, which was a women's conference that we put together for the Reproductive Health Research Unit based in Bara. And it was on a small scale, but it grew to be something that I hadn't imagined would become, especially back in those days. And then I also recall that one of the very big projects that we then landed was an event for Sandparks. They were launching a book, and soon after that, many other opportunities just started rolling.
And your background in media, and how has that helped you as an entrepreneur?
It has helped a great deal because, in terms of the solutions that we provide, we often have to interact with different media houses, and it helps to know how radio works. It helps to know what makes radio tick, to understand how they generate their revenues and how you can pitch a good story to them. So we often explain that to our clients, like, in fact, we sometimes refuse stories and say, this is not a story worth selling. We're not going to guarantee you that you're going to get much attention for this because it's not a topical issue, or it's not an issue that will impact or affect society to a great extent. So we'd rather that we come back and talk to you when you have something much more profound to talk about. And so it helps to understand how television works, how radio works, and of course how print works. And at times it's even better to know that I can call a producer directly and say, we need to put one of our guys on one of your top shows, whether it's a breakfast show, whatever.
I believe strongly that radio personalities have some of the best personalities in the world. There's like a reflexivity, there's something about a radio personality that I think you can put them anywhere and they'll thrive. Do you agree with that?
I certainly do. It's called ad-libbing. When I started at Radio Bob back in the day, we wouldn't be put on radio just because we had good voices and we sounded like really cool on air. They would put us through intensive training for at least 2 months, and I went through that. And one of the tricks that you were taught was ad-libbing. What happens when nothing else happens in studio?
Yes.
When back in the day we were playing CDs, when the CD won't play, and we still had vinyl. When the vinyl is scratching, what do you do? How do you fill the emptiness? How do you fill the empty space? And so you very quickly learn how to put all elements together in a situation and be able to strike a conversation. It helps with public speaking as well, because you could be standing there and you're introducing the next speaker, and the next speaker hasn't even arrived, but somebody has cued you to say, well, please introduce so-and-so, and they're not there, and then you've got to find things to play with, you know, to talk about.
Take us to the boardroom. I'm sure there have been deals throughout your career where you've been able to leverage that ad-libbing. They've been able to sort of like almost sort of intellectually dance in the moment, you know, when you could see that this deal may not come through unless I can get them in the palm of my hands. Do you have any tips you can share with women listening?
Look, I believe that it's important to be able to read the mood and to be able to read the body language. And sometimes you'd be having a conversation and people are saying a lot, but not exactly what they mean to say. So you've got to have the ability to listen enough to understand what people are not saying that they really want to be saying to you. And I find that happens a lot within, you know, government and, you know, the political arena. I would be sitting in a meeting and in the whole hour, a conversation would have transpired, but the real essence of the conversation is only captured within the last minute of the conversation. Wow. And you just have to realize that the whole time we were doing the dance, and then finally the real issue came out. And so you just have to have, I would imagine, if I had to put it in a certain way, it would be just the ability to have the insight and to be able to kind of like sift through all that happens around you in a conversation. And at the same time, in the corporate space, you know, you would be able to pick up, you know, what it is people are really looking for from you, and you can adjust the tone, you can adjust the color of your conversation. I'll give an example. If we're dealing with the private sector client, they generally want you to come in and show them, you know, pretty much all your, you know, what type of maverick you are, and can you pull stunts and tricks and whatever. What is it you can do to really impress them and give it a wow effect, whatever it is you're presenting. And I found that they're very open-minded regarding that. And then I've been in situations where the boardroom setup is very conservative, and you can almost tell that everything has to go by the book. So you really time your hello, your introduction, and there's no ad-libbing in between. And that works fairly well for certain clients. They don't want to get familiar with you. They don't want to make you feel that they're in a comfort zone with you. They're always going to be the client. You're going to be a service provider. And very quickly, with your emotional intelligence, you read that situation and you say, this is my space for now. I'm going to occupy this. I'm going to get paid.